Welcome to the Sports Ticket Podcast with Wade Gershner.
Hey folks, welcome to another edition of the Sports Ticket Podcast. Wade Gershner with you. On today's podcast, we will analyze Super Bowl 59. Are the Eagles overrated? Is Saquon Barkley's numbers inflated? And what are teams thinking in the NBA with recent trades and how desperate are they? Plus 5 Super Bowl questions for my wife to see how sports savvy she is. Thanks again for tuning in to the Sports Ticket Podcast. Share with a friend. You can also interact with me on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter, NCKS Radio Guy 10. So we begin with the Chiefs and Super Bowl 59. Did you know that the Chiefs, in games that they've played, all of their starters are 17-1 this year? Yeah, that's right. Don't count the Denver Bronco game that they lost 38-0. They had nothing on the line. The Chiefs are 17-1. Lost one game. That was at Buffalo. They are fresh. They're healthy. They've only played 2 full games, if you don't count the Bronco game, since Christmas. This will be the 4th quarterback Super Bowl rematch. And if you want good omens, if you're a Chiefs fan, the previous 3 quarterbacks who won the first matchup also won the rematch. So that bodes well for the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Did you know that Saquon Barkley has rushed for 2,447 yards this season, counting the playoffs? But did you know that Saquon Barkley, 62% of those yards came in just 9 games versus defenses ranked 22nd or worse? So while we might all be concerned as Chiefs fans about how in the world are we going to slow down Saquon Barkley, in the other 10 games against better defenses, Saquon Barkley has averaged 92 yards per game. By the way, if you're wondering, the Chiefs' defense is ranked 8th versus the run. The Chiefs have allowed just one player to rush for over 100 yards this season, and it wasn't even a running back. It was Lamar Jackson, a quarterback, all the way back in Week 1. And did you know that the Chiefs have not allowed a 100-yard rusher in their last 18 playoff games since 2019? Listen, Barkley's going to get yards, but how many times are stats misleading? If I told you that Saquon Barkley is going to carry the ball 18 times for 140 yards and a touchdown, would you say the Chiefs win or lose? I would tell you more than likely they will still win. During the Chiefs' run of making the Super Bowl 5 of the last 6 years, they have faced teams like the Ravens and others and the Tennessee Titans in the AFC title game when everybody was freaking out about Derrick Henry and the Chiefs held him to 68 yards. How are we going to stop a running game? There have been times the Chiefs have given up over 200 yards rushing to the Ravens. And guess what? They've still won. Another time when Clyde Edwards-Helaire fumbled late in the game when the Chiefs are going for a game-winning field goal in a Monday night game where the Ravens ran for over 200 in that contest. So if I tell you Saquon Barkley is going to carry the ball 18 times for 140 yards and a touchdown, which is 7 yards a carry, you may say, oh boy, the Chiefs are in trouble. But what if I told you that that one touchdown is a 60-yard explosive play and that on the other 17 carries, Saquon Barkley rushes for 80 yards? Changes things, doesn't it? That means he averages just over 4 yards a carry. If that is the scenario, advantage Chiefs. Yes, you give up one explosive play and Barkley gets one long touchdown run, but his numbers would be somewhat inflated. 7 yards a carry, oh, how are we going to do it? I would argue the Chiefs are in bigger trouble if Saquon Barkley carries the ball 18 times for 140 yards and does not have the big explosive play, because he might be getting chunks of 7 and 8 and 12 and 14 yards. But if Saquon Barkley only has 18 carries in Super Bowl 59, I don't really worry too much about what his yards are. He's not getting enough touches. Now, granted, if he has 18 carries for 250 yards, that's a big problem. So the Chiefs have proven that they can slow down great running backs. And why should we think that this will be any different? Folks, we're hearing the same old tired stuff that the national media shoves down our throat every single year during the 2-week period between the AFC and NFC title games and the Super Bowl. It's the same old song. Tell me if you've heard this before. I don't know if the Chiefs can beat this defense. This is the best defense they've seen all year long. The 49ers and the Eagles, they have a better roster. Really? By my count, the Chiefs have the better quarterback, which is pretty darn important. They have the better kicker. I'll take Harrison Butker over Jake Elliott any day of the week. The Chiefs, in my opinion, have the better special teams unit. And I'll take the Chiefs coaching staff over the Eagles coaching staff any day of the week. And I'm not even counting other positions. This Eagles defense, the narrative already, it's better than the Eagle defense that lost to Mahomes and the Chiefs a few years ago. They're not going to give up 38 points to the Chiefs. The Eagles were the number one overall defense this year. I grant you that. They only gave up 175 yards passing a game this year. That was number one in the National Football League. But you know what else is true? The Chiefs' defense is also better than a few years ago, and I'll bet you the Chiefs don't give up 35 points to the Eagles in Super Bowl 59. The other thing that I keep hearing from all the national pundits, this Eagle offense. You would think it's the show on turf, the 1999 Rams, or Kurt Warner and Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt and Marshall Faulk. Keep hearing, how do you stop the Eagles offense? They've got Saquon Barkley. They got A.J. Brown. They got this unbelievable offensive line. They've got Devontae Smith. They got Dallas Goedert. They've got a record defensive tackle in Jalen Carter. Jalen Hurts can really hurt you with his legs. Well, if that's the case and they're so awesome, how can you explain to me that the Eagles offensive line ranks 8th in run blocking and 9th in pass blocking, but they're such a dominant offensive line? Wouldn't you think they would be number 1 or 2 in one of those categories? Also, if the Eagles offense is so explosive, why have they been really poor for the most part and inconsistent with their passing game throughout the year, including the first 2 rounds of the playoffs? Jalen Hurts has struggled at times, and the Eagle passing game has been inconsistent. And by the way, once again, national media buying into a narrative or simply making some things up a little bit to try to make things even more interesting. And granted, I do think the Eagles can certainly beat the Chiefs. Anybody can beat anybody on any given day, and the Eagles are very, very good. Don't get me wrong. But here's the thing that we keep looking at, and it's the same old song we've heard the last few years. The 49ers are so dominant. They have the better roster. Then you look at their playoff run. They caught a break here. They caught a break there. Or you look at the division they played in, or you look at their overall schedule and you say, who did they beat? This was the same stuff they were saying about the Chiefs and the Eagles a few years ago in Super Bowl 57. And I remember we previewed it on the Sports Ticket, and we talked about, what great quarterbacks have the Eagles actually faced with their defense that's so good? And the answer was not that many. So here we are a few years later. Man, the Eagle offense is just, I don't know how the Chiefs are going to stop them. Well, the Rams held the Eagles in check. The Eagles have been up and down throughout the year offensively. They have a really good running game. We get that. They actually rush for more yards than pass. But everybody's overreacting to the fact that they beat the Washington Commanders, a 6 seed, who beat the Lions, who are missing like 13 key guys due to injury. And the Commander defense was below average, gave up 55 points in the NFC title game in Philadelphia, who had home field advantage against a rookie quarterback. And somehow everybody's treating it like the Eagles beat one of the best teams in the league. Now they beat a hot team who got by an injured team. And don't get me wrong, Commanders played well and beat the Lions and earned it. But the Eagles didn't have the tests that the Chiefs had. The Chiefs played every single team that made it to the AFC playoffs. Did you know that? Yeah. They played the Ravens, beat them. Played the Bills, lost, then beat them in the AFC title game. Beat the Texans twice, counting the playoffs. Beat the Broncos once, lost another one they didn't even care about. And the Broncos made the playoffs. The Chiefs beat every AFC team, the Steelers as well. And they beat the Bengals, who everybody talked about, well, they'd be so scary if they make the playoffs. The Chiefs have seen a plethora of outstanding football teams. And I think you could make the argument, not saying it's right, I'm saying you could make the argument, that the Buffalo Bills and Baltimore Ravens are just as good as the Philadelphia Eagles, or very close to as good, and the Chiefs have been more battle-tested. Have they had a ton of close games? Yeah, and they find a way to win every time. And you don't need to win by 30. You don't have to put 500 yards of offense on the board. You just simply have to score more points than the other team, and the Chiefs find a way to do that. And oh, by the way, this explosive Eagles offense has played the easiest schedule of pass defenses this year, and they still struggle throwing the football. I think Jalen Hurts is a solid quarterback, and you know what? He played very well against the Chiefs a few years ago and had the one mistake, which really, I don't know if it's really his mistake. Guy came through virtually unblocked, lost the football, returned for a touchdown. That was a huge play in the game, no question. And the Chiefs scored, I think, on almost every possession of the second half and made adjustments against the Eagles when they were down, 10 at halftime. And I could see that same scenario playing out this Sunday in New Orleans. But don't buy into this. Chiefs fans, don't freak out and go, oh my gosh, this is the best team we played all year, and position by position, they're better than us in every single spot on the roster except for quarterback. Well, even if that's true, I'm going to kind of go with the quarterback. I don't know. All he's done is win Super Bowls. And don't you think that Patrick Mahomes, who has 3 Super Bowl MVPs and has thrown 7 touchdown passes and 5 interceptions, his numbers are not great in the Super Bowl. But he's made some clutch plays when he's had to, right? That's why the Chiefs are 17-1 in games where they cared about this year. Patrick Mahomes is due for a breakout Super Bowl. And wouldn't it be something if Mahomes goes out and lights up the Eagles for 300 yards? I don't know if he will, but I'm just saying Patrick Mahomes has still not had his breakout Super Bowl game. He hasn't had a game where he's been unbelievable. Perhaps that'll be this Sunday. But does he have to be unbelievable for the Chiefs to win? No. This team is balanced. They have defense. They have special teams. They have coaching. They've got a kicker that's come through in gigantic moments in crunch time to keep their season alive or to win a football game or even a Super Bowl. They have guys that are hungry, like Kareem Hunt and DeAndre Hopkins, and you've got Kelsey and Mahomes that are never satisfied, Andy Reid. And the team has been there many, many, many times. More on Super Bowl 59 coming up tomorrow in our next Sports Ticket podcast. Coming up, we'll talk about the NBA trades that have been taking place, and also 5 Super Bowl sports questions for my wife to test her sports knowledge. That's all coming up on this Sports Ticket podcast. So there have been a few NBA trades. You may have heard of a few. Of course, the blockbuster that I thought was a complete hoax, proven to be true, that it was not a hoax, was the Lakers and the Mavericks. Anthony Davis going from the Lakers to the Mavericks trading Luka Doncic at the age of 25 to the Lakers, not wanting to give him a supermax deal. And all Luka did was average over 30 last year and take his team to the NBA Finals, which must be an indictment on Luka because the Mavericks know more about Luka than anybody else. There's questions about the conditioning of Luka Doncic and so forth and so on. All I know is the guy goes out and he scores. I know he's a liability at times on defense, but he's only 25. And the Lakers get a player to take over for the future when LeBron finally hangs it up, which LeBron might have 10 years left him until he plays till 50. Who knows? The guy's a freaking amazing athlete. Whether you like him or not, you got to respect what he's done and stop and enjoy the greatness of LeBron James, much like we need to stop and enjoy the greatness of the Chiefs organization and Patrick Mahomes, whether you like them winning all the time or not. And forget whether you're a Jordan fan or a LeBron fan. Understand LeBron is a freak of nature that we may never see again. Amazing what he's doing at the age of 40. But the Lakers locked down their future star with this trade. They didn't give up a lot. They didn't even they gave up a first-round pick in 2029. The Mavericks acquired an injury-prone 31-year-old in Anthony Davis. I know Luka's been injured and is injured right now and is expected to come off that injury list and play here pretty soon for the Lakers. But you just sit here and ask yourself, what were the Mavericks doing? And the Lakers, the trade makes sense. But are the Lakers a team that's going to make it to the NBA Finals this year with Luka and LeBron? And then they traded for a young Mark Williams, who's a nice young talent in the post. I don't think it makes them better than OKC. I don't know if it makes them better than the Nuggets. I don't know if it makes them better than a few other teams in the West. But it certainly gets your attention. And the Mavericks, I don't know. I could see a year from now, here's the headline: Kyrie Irving wants out of Dallas. Anthony Davis soon to be available coming off groin injury. That's how what I see in the future. And then if you thought that trade didn't make sense for the Mavericks, then you had the Jimmy Butler trade yesterday. As he's a 6-time All-Star forward, he was traded to the Golden State Warriors in a blockbuster trade. And I'm sitting here and I'm going, what are the Warriors doing? The Warriors just traded Kyle Anderson, who's a decent role player, Andrew Wiggins, their second leading scorer, who's 29 years of age. He's an all-star, or has been, and he's arguably their best defender. And they gave away a protected first-round pick. And all the Warriors get is a 35-year-old former all-star in Jimmy Butler. And then the Warriors give Jimmy Butler a 2-year, $121 million extension. If Jimmy Butler's 27 for this deal, I may even argue they still gave up too much. But he's 35. He became a malcontent in Miami, and what did the Heat ever do to him? And they were always great to him, and to his credit, he played really well when he really wanted to play, and he was outstanding in the playoffs. It seems like a desperate effort by the Warriors to give Steph and Draymond Green one last chance at the championship. This just in. The Warriors, I don't believe they're much better on paper now than they were before they traded for Jimmy Butler. Now they're locked into a 2-year deal for $121 million, and they gave up some of their bench, and they gave up one of their best defenders. I don't even know if Jimmy Butler's as good a defender as Andrew Wiggins. And by the way, Andrew Wiggins was averaging 18 a game. Jimmy Butler may average about that, maybe 20. Is that a big enough difference? I don't know. And the Warriors right now, they got to start winning games immediately so they can avoid the play-in tournament, and that's assuming they even get into the top 10 spots. So it seemed like a desperate move by the Warriors to trade for a 35-year-old in Jimmy Butler. Just my 2 cents on two of the big NBA trades. Lakers makes total sense to get Luka for really didn't give up too much. And the Mavericks, short term, might work with Irving and Davis and make a run. But long term, I think it's a big mistake by the Dallas Mavericks. All right, coming up in just a moment, it is 5 Super Bowl questions for my wife to see how sports savvy, Super Bowl sports savvy she is. Thanks for tuning in to the Sports Ticket Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle, NCKS Radio Guy 10. Coming up tomorrow on the Sports Ticket Podcast, we'll break down Super Bowl 59 a little bit further. Chiefs' keys to victory on Sunday. 2 wild scenarios I've thought of for the Chiefs to clinch a three-peat. What would a three-peat mean to the Chiefs, to the National Football League, and the history of the league along with the Chiefs organization? And we'll preview the Sunflower Showdown between KU and K-State at Bramlage coming up Saturday at 1 o'clock. Plus, we'll have even more Super Bowl sports questions for my wife. So don't miss it. Sports Ticket coming up again tomorrow. It's time again for 5 sports questions for my wife to see how sports savvy she is, and to make her feel even worse, we have our 11-year-old son to see how much smarter he is when it comes to sports. This is the second installment of our Super Bowl questions, as it will be Super Bowl 59 this Sunday, the Chiefs versus the Eagles. So, first question for my wife. Who is this year's halftime performer at the Super Bowl?
Beyonce?
Incorrect.
Kendrick Lamar.
That is correct. Kendrick Lamar, yes. 11-year-old scores. Good job.
During a possible SEA. I think.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Who has won the most Super Bowls in NFL history? There's 2 teams tied atop with the most Super Bowl wins with 6. Name one of the 2.
Dallas Cowboys?
Good guess that they won 5. Try again.
Miami Dolphins?
Try again.
Patriots.
That is correct. That is one. Can you name the other, Leah?
Steelers and Patriots.
That is correct. Double bonus for the 11-year-old. Well done. Oh, this one could be interesting. This one's for my wife. Question number 3. Who is the starting quarterback in this week's Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles?
Starting quarterback.
What is his name?
Watson.
Watson. It's elementary, my dear. And that would be wrong, my dear. 11-year-old. Your turn.
Backup Kenny Pickett. Starter Jalen Hurts.
Oh, showing off with the backup knowledge. I like it. All right. Time for question number 4 for my wife. 5 questions. What former star quarterback is going to be part of the broadcasting team for Fox this Sunday?
I just saw it. Brady.
First name?
Tom.
Oh, good job. Good job. You knew that.
Tom
Yes,
Brady.
you knew that. Obviously. Good. I thought your mother would get that one. And finally, who was the MVP of last year's Super Bowl?
Patrick Mahomes.
Hey!
Patrick Mahomes.
There we go. We finished strong. So, Super Bowl 59 coming up this Sunday. That is our final installment of 5 sports questions pertaining to the Super Bowl with my wife and 11-year-old. And once again, the final tally is in, and the 11-year-old wins again.
This has been the Sports Ticket Podcast with Wade Gershner. Interact with Wade online. Follow him on Twitter at NCKS Radio Guy 10.